Board of Selectmen meeting to order, noting that all three selectmen are present. Bryce, are you hitting the record for YouTube as well? Okay. So I will note that this meeting is not only being live streamed, but it is also being recorded visually and audibly. Is that a word? Audibly.
It is now.
But I want to first and foremost thank the school, Thompson Public Schools IT department, Tracy Bashand and Bryce Pratt, for coming out tonight and helping us achieve this goal of having a hybrid meeting. So thank you very much. It is not on the agenda, but what I would like is to make a motion, if I have to add it, so that we say the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, because we do have a flag available to us. So could I make a motion that we add that to the agenda?
Just do it.
I don't think you need a motion.
No problem? Okay.
Yeah.
So can we all stand and say Pledge of Allegiance tonight? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from September 15th, 2020.
Second?
Any
Okay.
discussion on these minutes?
I do have one thing to add
Okay,
to help clarify that big intent. There was a lengthy discussion that evening on that subject.
and which subject was
Which
it?
is paragraph 5, the Wyndham North property lien.
Okay,
So there was a lot of discussion, and what I have here will help us get to where we ended up with the motion.
okay,
Okay, so basically I'd like to add it right after which came to the Board of Selectmen recently for resolution, which is like 5 sentences down. No, next page.
oh, the next page, okay.
Sorry, on the page 2.
Which came to the Board of Select, yes, I
Okay.
see it.
What I'd like to add there is the offer of 200. The offer for 200 plus or minus acres was not acceptable. The Board of Selectmen rejected an offer of $96,000 for 49 acres in 2019.
Was not acceptable. I just want to make sure I have it. An offer for what was it again, Ken?
Excuse me?
What was the offer again? 96?
It was $96,000 for the 49 acres in 2019.
Okay, so the offer, this is what we're going to add, or Ken is proposing that we add, the offer for 200 plus or minus acres was not acceptable. The Board of Selectmen rejected an offer of $96,000 for 49 acres in 2019. And with that change, does the board approve these minutes? Say aye.
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 Aye. And that change is noted and the motion passes. Okay, on to correspondence. I do want to note that we did receive some correspondence post the publishing of the agenda. The first being from Joe Perotti Brown on the 65 Main Street project, and the second being from Carolyn Werge on a conservation issue. Oh, and additionally, sorry, one more. Joanne Hall also submitted a letter in regard to the 65 Main Street project after the agenda. We received it today after the agenda had already been published. So I will be entering those into the correspondence. Notably, many of these letters that we received in regard to 65 Main, they did ask that the letters be read into record. What I would like to offer is that if an individual is here tonight and they would like to read their letter, they can do so during citizens' comments. What I will also do is I will have all of these letters that were submitted in regard to 65 Main published with the minutes. So they'll be attached with the minutes that are filed on our website and filed with the town clerk. So that's how I would like to move forward with the reading of those letters. So is there any other correspondence received from either selectman?
Okay, the only thing that we haven't received is from Joanne Hall, her letter.
Oh,
Okay, so if you can
that came
forward,
in really late.
yeah, if you could forward that to us, because the Joe Perotti was sent by Kelly,
Yep.
Right.
and the one from Carolyn on the conservation was also sent.
Yes.
So we have those.
Yeah, and I apologize. That did come in really
Yeah,
late.
and that's fine. Long as if you can forward that to us, that'd be great.
Okay, I will do that first thing tomorrow morning. Okay. On that note, we will move on to agenda item 3, selectmen comments. Are there any selectmen comments at this time? Ken or Suzanne?
I just have one. I do want to thank the Thompson Together, the Recreation Department, and all the volunteers that helped make this quite the success for the Community Vendor Day that was on Saturday. It was extremely well attended. Everything went off without a hitch. All of our social distancing and sanitizing and everything was there. And we got a great response from it. The people enjoyed it.
Excellent.
So thank you to everybody that put all that hard work into that.
Yes, thank you.
And I have more of a question than a comment. The Chamber of Commerce, do we have someone that represents us that attends the meetings for the Chamber of Commerce?
At times, their meetings have been a little bit less than,
And I know with
Often.
COVID, it's been, yeah.
but typically, yeah, in the past, I think, Ken, you've probably gone to the chamber meetings.
Whenever they've had, usually it's at, was it Grill 37? It's usually where they
Right.
like to go, and they'll have a
Depends different
guest
places.
speaker. And I would attend, Rainey would attend, people that are members of the chamber, and hear those variety of speakers.
Maybe it would be good for us to try to have somebody to attend those meetings on a more regular basis when they start to get into the,
They've literally been entirely on hold.
oh, no, I understand that. It's just we received something in our packet about the coupons that they're putting out, which look to be a pretty neat thing. And I think the chamber serves a very good purpose for business. And I think it would be, maybe even Tara or somebody would like to attend them on a regular basis. They're usually fun. I've attended them in the past. Just a thought.
Okay, I like that thought.
Thank you.
I hope they start doing things again.
I've looked at some and haven't been able to attend, but wished I could.
Right. Okay, my comments. The animal control program. Jan and I met with Gary Wilson, the state ACO. He has been very, very helpful in helping us to reopen. He's very supportive. Unfortunately, the list of repairs that we received from him was a bit larger than what maybe we had anticipated. We are working on several quotes with numerous contractors to try to make sure that we make the right decision and choose the most affordable but good quality contractors. So just to go over the list of some of the items that we're going to need to repair, there is a bit of concrete work that needs to be done. So pulling up some of the concrete that's breaking up because it's a trip hazard. Repairs to the main structure would include some rotting eaves. The building is, as you know, is constructed of concrete blocks, so it's a block building, and there is some cracks, so the blocks themselves need some sealing. The water pump regulator needed to be replaced because it was misfiring. The gas fire heater will probably last another winter, but we don't anticipate it lasting much more than that. It basically comes down to years of abandonment and not using the funds that were at our disposal, which is why we have $60,000 in an animal fund account, because the work has never been done over the years. So our plan is to get it up and running, get the work done, and get it done right, so that this will last us for quite a while. One of the other big expenses that we were facing is there's a quarantine run that is terribly cruel the way it's designed now. It's solid steel panels, so there's no light that really comes into that kennel. And from the moment Jan and I saw it, my first instinct was, this is cruel and unusual, even for an animal that needs to be quarantined. So what Gary has recommended, again, that's our state ACO, he has recommended that we use plexiglass on all the sides, the front of the door, and of course over the top, with holes in it at the top to create airflow. Again, to contain a dog that needs to be quarantined, but still to let that dog be able to see the outdoors. So it's not such a cruel place for that dog to be. Unfortunately, plexiglass is quite costly right now and in high demand. So that's going to be a bigger cost than we anticipated, but we want to do what's right for the dogs. So additional business, October 31st, Halloween. The Thompson Fire Departments, Thompson Recreation, and the Thompson Congregational Church have teamed up for a Thompson Halloween event this year. This is for residents. They are looking for participating vehicles that must be associated with an organization or a business. They don't want individual households handing out candy. It's going to be a drive-through Halloween event. So they're encouraging participants to decorate their vehicles, dress up, look silly, scary, or fun. And it's sure to be a great event. They're anticipating approximately 1,000 trick-or-treaters. And if you're interested in signing up, you will need to get in touch with, it's here someplace. Yes, there it is. Crystal Simon, sorry, it took me a second to find it. Crystal Simon, she's from the East Thompson Volunteer Fire Department. You can reach out to her at ksimon@etvfd.org by Friday, October 23rd. And the event runs from 4 to 6 p.m. So that's sure to be a great event, a great community event. Again, all the fire departments are involved. And if we can get as many businesses from town to participate, that will make it even better.
Are they doing this up at the Common?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, they're doing it at the Thompson Speedway. So it's also in conjunction with Thompson Speedway. They're letting us use their facility. So very excited about that.
Is this going to be on the track?
I'm not quite sure how they're going to lay it out, but there'll be an area so it can be one round drive-through is the way I understand it. So it's pretty cool.
Well, they have a lot of space up there. So
They do have a lot of space. So it'll be
that's
good
cool.
social distancing.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
So the last note is I would like to make a motion that we add 2 items to other business. The first, in conjunction with the letter that we received from Carolyn Werge. And the second is an email I had received from Joyce Hoy. I had personally neglected to put it onto the agenda. So I'll make a motion that we add 2 items to other business: conservation and land acquisition by Joyce Hoy, Joycehoye. So I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adding those 2 items to other business?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. And that is all I have for selectmen comments.
All right, I just have one other comment that just entered. We know that we're going to attach these letters and have them part of the minutes and not read them tonight. The letters that came in from a variety of people, if they don't speak this evening or read them in, we're all on the positive side.
Yes.
We're doing something to keep 65 Main Street viable.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Ken. I appreciate that. And I hope that a good majority of the people are here and can actually read the letters during citizen comments. And on that note, we will move to citizen comments. So the floor is open to anybody who would like to speak. If you are going to speak, either raise your hand, unmute yourself and begin to speak. I'm fine with that. Or you could go right to the chat function and put your name and say that you'd like to speak. Again, state your name before you speak and your address so our recording secretary can record that information.
Renee Waldron.
It's open.
Can I go forward?
I can't hear it.
I don't hear her either. Maybe you need to recognize her.
Bryce, we couldn't hear Renee. I think
Can you
there's a
hear-
small technical difficulty, so hold on.
How about now? Hello?
I'm going to guess everybody else on Zoom can hear her right now. Okay. Renee, I just saw your message. We can't hear you on our end. I think everybody in the Zoom audience can hear you. We just can't. They are working on the problem. Here. Okay. It's echoing. Oh, I see. It is. Is that better? Yeah. It seems better. I can always, oh no, it's already muted. Okay. We should be good to go.
Okay. Is that
We can
better?
hear you. We can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Okay, you do know you're echoing, all,
Yes,
both of
we
you.
do.
Okay. Hopefully I won't be. All right, to the Board of Selectmen, Renee Waldron. I reside at 79 Main Street. I am reading the letter as the chair from EDC Branding Strategy Implementation Committee, and also as a private citizen who happens to live in the neighborhood. I respectfully request that this letter be read into the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's October 6th, 2020 meeting. The rehabilitation of the neighborhood surrounding River Mill, including the Main Street Loop, has been part of the discussions at the Mill Site's Redevelopment Advisory Committee, as well as economic development meetings as far back as 2017. Mr. Gumpert has mentioned such neighborhood improvements as being important to his project at River Mill. The 65 Main project, born out of the efforts to improve the surrounding neighborhood, was initiated in early spring of 2019. This project has come up at numerous public meetings, including those of EDC, Branding, MISRAC, as well as the Board of Selectmen. We had the grand opening of the garden last October, which was very well promoted and advertised. In addition, the project supports the work done by the residents of this community in promoting Thompson as a farm-friendly community. As you know, the River Mill project is widely supported by the community, as you have witnessed at those large public information meetings that have been held. Further evidence of community support for the preservation of this historic place can be found by reading the results of the Branding Committee's Game Night Citizen Engagement Endeavor, which, by the way, were published in the January 2020 Selectmen's update. See to the left. I did include a snippet of that information, and the top priority, 91% of the people in attendance chose their number 1 and 2 as local identity, city branding, and 5 and 6 as historic landmarks and maintenance. So those were items that were priority of the over 60 people in attendance at that public game night. Also, in my June 2020 letter to the board, the 65 Main Street Rehabilitation Project was included. The 2 excerpts from that letter are included here. Projects established to meet with the above stated goals. Thompson Garden by the River in memory of Harriet A. Turtelot, initiated June 2019. The first in a planned series of implemental phases to rehabilitate the town-owned building and lot at 65 Main Street. Assembled a group of volunteers, including staff from Thompson Public Schools, Social Service Agency, Teague, and community members, to plan and install a system of raised beds to be activated as a community garden in spring of 2020. Construction was completed October 2019. This is the first in a planned series of escalating projects to rehabilitate the project at 65 Main Street for conversion to a small business entrepreneurship center focused on agricultural and food system businesses. Additional grant funds have been requested from USDA and NIFA to support the development of the master plan for this site, which will also incorporate a permaculture park and food forest on the adjacent town-owned acreage. Work on that project will begin in FY21 under the project management of the planner. Second quote from that June letter: Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors Placemaking Grant Program, October 2019, $5,000 awarded to the town of Thompson to install additional public park amenities, play equipment, bike rack, and permanent signage at the 65 Main Street site. Equipment to be installed in September 2020. The Eastern Connecticut Association of Realtors grant was supported by the first selectman at the time, Ken Bosley. In addition, 65 Main Street has been the home of playground equipment for neighborhood children for nearly 40 years. The equipment was removed because it no longer met safety guidelines. A change in administration should not mean negating the projects already initiated. The Branding Strategy Implementation Committee strongly urges you to support the preservation of this very historical, valuable town of Thompson asset. I'll leave you with one question. What do we gain by letting it deteriorate? Sincerely, Renee Waldron, EDC Branding Strategy Implementation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Citizens' comments are still open. Joe Perotti Brown, can we unmute him?
Good evening.
There he is.
I'd like to read the letter that I had sent to the selectmen as well. Responsible and thoughtful development of Thompson must be a priority for our town government. To promote that development, it is essential that we look to the future while honoring our history. That history includes the mills that dominate the North Grosvenor-Dale area and the neighborhoods that arose surrounding them. It also includes the families whose names are familiar to all of us, chief among them, the Turtelot family. The property at 65 Main Street offers the town an opportunity to further our historical legacy while promoting a promising future. While the property will no longer serve the purpose for which it was deeded to the town, it can still have a positive influence on our community and benefit our community members. We have already seen the value of initiatives undertaken at that property, including the Thompson Garden by the river. This effort mobilized varied constituencies from the town. I am, for example, proud that members of the Marianapolis Preparatory School class of 2020 contributed to the garden, assisting with the staining and preparation of the raised garden beds that students from Turtelot Memorial High School were key in constructing. The town should continue to promote projects like this, which bring community members together. The property at 65 Main Street, however, has even more potential to explore. This building has been a focal point for community involvement in the past, and we can again look to it as a model for growth, development, and community empowerment. The proposed plan to develop programming in this space connects seemingly disparate goals that our community members have identified as important: proximate food access, innovative entrepreneurship, and historical preservation that promotes progress for our town. It is important to note that the Turtelot Trust, enacted by town ordinance to steward the legacy of the Turtelot family, has expressed its support for this project. By engaging a coalition of distinct community organizations and resident voices, we optimize our community resources, position the town as an innovative and strong community, and strengthen our municipal identity. I encourage the Board of Selectmen to act in support of this project for the benefit of our community. I request that this letter be read into the record of the meeting of the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, October 6th, and request acknowledgement of the receipt of this letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. Bryce, was there anybody else in the chat? No. Any other citizen comments at this point? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Bryce, could I unplug the speaker? I'm getting a really bad echo. Unplug it, okay, and then I can replug it when we do citizens' comments again? Okay. Oh, how do I do that? Oh, right here. Okay. Oh, no problem. If I plug it back in, will it work? Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 5. Make a motion that we appoint Norman M. Baker as constable for the town of Thompson.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on this appointment? So all in favor of appointing Norman M. Baker as constable for the town of Thompson, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Okay,
Do you have that appointment to be signed?
yeah, we can sign it all today.
Okay.
We'll do that before we leave. I'm gonna leave it right there. Okay, moving on to agenda item 6. With that, I'm going to ask that our Director of Public Works, Richard Benoit, speaks Rich, if you can unmute yourself, and then also if you could first of all, give us a quick update on what's going on at the Public Works Department, and then we'll move on to the driveway bond increase issue. Please, if you will.
Okay, can you hear me?
You gotta put the speaker back on.
Okay. I think we can hear you.
All right, Rich,
How about
Rich,
now?
you got it.
Okay. So currently we're finishing up with our paving program for 2020. And also trying to finish up from some stuff from last year's construction season, along with kind of putting out some fires and fixing some drainage issues. And we're got a couple of tree contractors scheduled to help remove some of the dead trees in town, hopefully before winter hits. And with the list of stuff we got going on, hopefully we have time to actually prepare for snow if that actually happens. Is there any specific questions that anybody on the board has for happenings currently at the highway department?
I'm good.
I think we're good. You can move on to the driveway bond increase.
All right. So just keeping up with times and issues that I've seen in my time here so far, I would like to request an increase in the bond amount for driveway permitting. In order for someone to establish a new driveway in town, whether it be a private citizen or a contractor or what have you, there's a $50 permit application fee. And then in order to put in the driveway for a new building or whatever, they have to post a bond to cover the cost of a driveway apron. The purpose of the apron is to protect the edge of the road from the traffic entering and exiting from the property, most specifically during winter time for snow plowing. If there wasn't an apron, somebody's plowing their driveway, the snow plow could potentially destroy the edge of the road, causing a failure on the road surface. So we like one of the requirements in town for a driveway is to have a paved driveway apron to protect our road. So the issue that I have is the current bond amount is $1,000. So if I were to call a paving contractor and say I need a driveway apron installed on my property because I'm putting a new driveway in, the rough figure on cost is somewhere between $800 and $1,000 to put in a paved driveway apron. Our current bond amount is $1,000. So the problem that I'm seeing here is many people in the past have paid their $1,000 bond and not actually installed their driveway apron because they would have to then spend another $1,000 to have the apron installed just to get their $1,000 back from the town. So basically they've already paid it, and if they don't actually do it, there's nothing to make them do it because they paid their $1,000. So I would essentially like to double that bond to $2,000. That way they have to post a $2,000 bond, they install a driveway apron, and then they get their $2,000 back.
Okay. Any questions?
So your thought is that if they have to pay more, that will be more of an incentive to put the apron on?
Basically, the bond amount is equivalent to the cost. So if you post $1,000 bond, you get your driveway and you essentially get your CO for your house or building that you're putting in. And then you don't necessarily have to put the apron in because you've already paid the bond. So there's nothing that the town has over you except for your $1,000, which they would have to pay another $1,000 to get the work done and then get their money back from the town from the bond. The bond secures the fact that they're actually going to do the work.
Is this an actual bond or is it a cash bond?
I do believe that's a cash bond.
But generally, we're talking about somebody building a house, so it could be figured into the cost. for building the house?
Well, basically what would happen is, if we did increase the bond amount, they would have to pay $2,000 for their driveway apron. And they will get that money back as soon as the apron is installed and I go out and inspect it. Obviously they still have to pay to have the work done. So essentially it would cost them $3,000 and then they get 2,000 of it back. But my issue at the moment is there's nothing forcing them to actually do the work because they've already paid for it once. Why should they have to pay for it twice? It's easier to just skip out on doing the work because they've already just handed the town $1,000. Even though they'll essentially get their 1,000 back from the town, it's not a concern. It's very easy to walk away from.
So this is for new driveways?
Yes.
So that's not part of what they do when they put in a new driveway, is put this apron on?
It depends on if they actually pave the driveway. So not everybody paves their new driveways. So even if the driveway is dirt or made out of other materials, it's still required by town ordinance to have an apron. And like I said, the apron protects the road from the traffic. So that's my purpose for this, is to make sure that moving forward, all new driveways will end up getting their paved apron. And people won't skate around it by just saying, well, I already gave my town my $1,000, so now I don't have to do it.
Okay, I understand.
So you're kind of seeing people saying, or pricing out a driveway apron and then deciding, I'll just give the money to the town and not do it.
Correct. Either way, they have to give us the money to get their permit. They don't have to get their money back from us if they don't pay for it. So essentially right now, it costs you out of pocket $2,000, roughly thereabouts, to put your driveway apron in, but then you get that $1,000 security bond back from the town once it's inspected that it's actually in place. So the theory on that is well, I had to pay the town $1,000 for the bond to say that I was going to do the work, and then I have to spend another $1,000 to actually do it just to get my $1,000 back. So let's just say the heck with the $1,000 that I paid for my bond, and now there's nothing that anybody can say about the fact that I didn't do it.
When do they get notification about the bond
When they apply for their permit.
for the driveway?
Yes.
And where does that fall in the process? I'm sorry if I don't know the protocol.
So basically, in order to do any sort of improvements to a property that doesn't have an existing right-of-way, they have to apply for a driveway access permit. So that'll go through the building office. I will be contacted to inspect the site to make sure that a driveway in that location will not impede on any drainage or cause any drainage issues that aren't already there. And then I can sign off on the initial inspection and note any issues that I see during the inspection that may have to be handled in the installation. So then they will get approved for access to the property at that location and have to abide by whatever. Most driveways is not an issue. So, if the driveway doesn't require a pipe or there's no sightline issues, then they can just put in their entryway, and before they get an occupancy permit or they get a final inspection on the driveway, I have to go back out, re-inspect and sign off that the work was completed, the driveway was installed properly at the road, AKA there is a paved driveway apron that meets the standards that are set in place by the town of Thompson in the ordinances.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I would think that this is mostly prevalent to where somebody's just putting in an apron and they have a dirt driveway. Where if you're building a brand new house and you're paving up to the garage, they're going to complete it. So it's more to protect the road for those that don't actually put a driveway all the way in.
Correct.
So I make a motion that we increase the driveway bond to $2,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of this increase? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Suzanne, what did you say?
I said aye.
Okay. Okay, so it's unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
I'll have to turn that back on, but the echo drives me crazy. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7, Wyndham North property lien. As Ken had discussed in the minutes, we had made an offer. I do not have an update on that offer. I have been in touch with Centerville Bank. I do have a contact there now. The attorney that represented Wyndham North in the past is not technically their attorney and did not provide information to them in a timely manner. So they're just receiving the information now from our attorney. So I don't have any further updates on that issue. All right. Moving on to agenda item 8, bid opening for 1395 Riverside Drive. I do have one bid, which I'm going to open tonight
You're going to open it tonight?
for
Oh,
1395.
1395, yes.
1395, yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Nope. So this was the property that's near the Wilsonville Mill. Planning and zoning had given us the permission to dispose of the property. We had decided to go out to bid. We have one bidder. We do not have to accept the bid. It will be up to the board to decide that. I, Mac McWilliam, would like to purchase 1395 Riverside Drive, Thompson, Connecticut, from the town. Closing 60 days after town approved, subject to perk test, acceptable to buyer. My offer is $30,110. Since signed the buyer, Mark McWilliams. And that is the offer. The bid had requested that a minimum bid of $30,110. I mean, that $30,000 was the minimum bid, so this bidder has gone above by $110. And it is my understanding that this gentleman owns the adjacent property that has the easement that runs through the 1395 property. So it's of great interest for him to acquire it. So any discussion on this bid? What is the selectmen's thoughts?
I think he's met the requirements that we had put out there. It makes sense that he would want the property. That kind of eliminates the whole issue of them using the easement to his benefit, truly, since he owns the property to the right of it.
So I would make a motion that we accept this offer and move forward with the sale of 1395.
And I will second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I still think that 1395 could be beneficial to the mill rehabbing section all the way down. There's a lot of possibilities with that, which I had expressed previously. And there's still always a possibility that working something out with the people at 1405 that would benefit the abutter to the west and to the, to 1405 that we haven't fully explored.
And I appreciate those thoughts. Any other discussion on this matter? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting this bid and offering the sale to Mr. Mark McWilliams, say aye.
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 No,
Those opposed?
based on what I had previously said.
Okay,
Just for the, you will need to check with town attorney if we need to do anything further, such as a town meeting or anything to make sure that,
absolutely. Before we'll do anything, we'll run it entirely by the town's attorney. Okay.
So Pen, how did you vote?
no.
No, okay, sorry.
Okay. We're going to move on to the foundation repair of 65 Main Street, discussion and possible action. I will just begin by stating I'm enthused that there was so much positive response towards the 65 Main project, and I want to make it clear that this isn't something that I'm entirely against. I appreciate the plan. But what I do know is that the town has a long list of items that just keep rolling in that are desperate, that will become liabilities if we don't take care of those issues. So I'm trying really hard to see the bigger picture in town, and feel-good projects and restoring historic sites are very important. But if we're neglecting items such as salt sheds, bridges, equipment for our transfer station, in favor of larger projects or in favor of alternate projects of historical value, we're missing that bigger picture, things that could become liabilities to us. And I've spent weeks thinking about this. And the one thing that struck me and that ran through my mind over and over again is that I'm here and I'm a representative of the people. And even though there is a handful of people that came forward, there's still 6,000 or so other registered voters and taxpayers whose voices need to be heard as well. And based on Ordinance 10-005, this project would fall into an appropriation that would be above or at the 0.5% of the approved fiscal percentage of the approved fiscal budget, which would push it to needing Board of Finance approval and a town meeting. So from my opinion, just to start the conversation, the appropriate route to deciding on an appropriation of funds this large wouldn't be just an EDC's decision or a small group of people in town in their decision. This is something bigger, and it needs to be brought to the people so that the people can decide if this is where they would like to see their funds spent. And that is my thoughts on the project. Like I said, I've spent weeks thinking about it. As a representative of the people, that's what my job is. And I'll entertain further discussion from my other selectmen.
I think that we should support this for a variety of reasons in the letters. But there is also another way of getting this project done. I mean, the Teague Building on Thatcher Road was a prime example between grants, volunteerism, and doing the labor ourselves to get this building done. And look at the beautiful building that we have there now. So to save this building, we can pick up grants and explore it in that fashion, and that way the taxpayers themselves are not taking anything out of the budget.
Absolutely, Ken, and the ordinance states that if it's 100% funded, then yes, you do not have to, you can forgo the town meeting, but that's 100% funded. We're not talking about 100% funding. The taxpayers need to have say in this issue. Any other thoughts?
Oh, did you have?
No, go ahead.
I don't want to be perceived as not supporting this. What I want to make sure is that we are following the process and the procedures that we have in place. And when it came on the agenda that we were opening up a bid, something in the back of my head told me that there is a process or a procedure and that not everybody in town can go out and put an RFP out or put a scope of work out and get a bid in the town's name. So I think that there is and correct me if I'm wrong, a process that has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen before it goes out to bid, if it's over a certain amount. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. We did do a little research. There is a bid policy that was put into place, and it says that bid solicitation will be approved by the Board of Selectmen at a selectmen's meeting prior to going out to bid, which would deem the bid that did go out for the repair of the foundation
Null and void.
null and void,
So that,
because we want to follow protocol.
and that was something that I said, let's just put the brakes on for a little bit so we can investigate to make sure, first of all, that we have some accurate numbers, because I think, and I think that Tara is working on getting some more accurate numbers, because I know this has been investigated before and looked at, and the Teague building was vacated by Teague because the cost of rehabbing the building was going to be astronomical. So that is one thing. And I realized that they had a different purpose for it. And I also was very concerned that we weren't following the procedures or the process that has been put in place long before this administration. I also have concerns that grant funding that would be applied for what might take away from some of the bigger issues that are going on in town that need to be addressed. And that might be a discussion for another meeting.
Right.
Those are my comments on it. I don't think that we can open up the bid, and moving forward is concerning until we go through the right process.
And I agree, as soon as we've got a concrete estimate in place, I think at that point, we'll be able to go to the voters in a town meeting format, hopefully in the not too distant future, to approve the plan in its entirety. Would be my wish.
I do still think that we can achieve the goal of the branding EDC and rehabbing the building, keeping with the Turtle Rock Trust, by doing it by grants and grassroots efforting and get this building done. And, you know, and that would be not a burden on the taxpayers, but, you know, it would achieve the ultimate goal of saving that building and making it viable again.
And I'm entirely for that, but let's get the voters to say, hey, yeah, this is a project we want to invest our time and we want to invest resources of grant funding towards this project versus possibly other projects. I just want voter approval on it. But on this note, I know Tara wanted to speak, so I'm going to turn the speaker back on, if that's okay, so I can allow our Director of Planning and Development to share her thoughts. I know it's a project that's very near and dear to her heart.
Am I live on your speaker?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. Tara Penn here, Director of Planning and Development. I appreciate you guys putting this back on the agenda and acknowledging that you have received letters of support from some of the volunteers who have worked on the project to date. I do feel I need to continue to clarify certain points that have been raised this evening. The first being the amount of taxpayer money proposed for the stabilization of the foundation. It has again been mentioned that that is in some kind of conflict with, for example, the salt shed. The Board of Selectmen voted to approve the line item for projects related to 65 Main Street for the EDC budget in this year's budget season. They had the option at that time to strip the entire amount away if they thought it was an unwise use of taxpayer funds. And going forward, certainly they have the right to do that in future budget seasons. But at the time, the project was described in the depth that it was developed to that point, the intent of the commissions and committees working on it, and that amount of money was approved. in July in the new fiscal year, it was determined by EDC that this was the most prudent use of those funds at this time, since the foundation is the most pressing need. It has been the case since the conceptualization of this project, because it was made clear that the town was not going to pay for the maintenance of the building that they own, that it would be pursued through grant funding and volunteerism in its entirety, which is why it is phased out. I believe that the board would have received today a supplemental email that I had sent. Suzanne had requested some information regarding ADA retrofits, which has to do with the reason it was found to be untenable for Teague. It is true that Teague as a public facility would have been required to retrofit for ADA use for the entire structure. As we have proposed it, the public facility is solely on the first floor, and the second and third floors, as we have described, is suggested should be turned into a rental unit. That is both to return it to the intent of the original deed, which was that it be rented to the superintendent with the remittance of funds to the school. My contact at the Department of Housing, his exact title escapes me right now, was my first person that I reached out to. He confirmed that the threshold for ADA compliance in retrofits is 15 units and 75% of the value of the property or more. So not or, but and, 15 units and. ADA requirements would have buildings constructed since 1991 with a minimum of 4 units be retrofitted. In neither of those cases does the building rise to that threshold. So the exorbitant costs that were described in the report that was compiled for former Selectman Larry Groh are not relevant to this particular issue. The building is probably very close to ADA compliant on the first floor as it is, though we are, it is possible that the walkway would have to be reconstructed. I think it's stepped and not ramped, and possibly you might have to widen a couple of the entranceways. In terms of going out for taxpayer approval to write grants, that is an odd choice, I think. I've written 16 grants in 16 months. I've got about a 33% return on those grants, which is a reasonably good return, but we don't go out to vote any time that we discover a grant program that would support something that the town would benefit from. And in terms of the resources being put towards writing one grant versus another, or a grant for one project versus another, very rarely do the grants that I look at apply to more than one type of project. In other words, the USDA NEFA grant that I sought would have no relationship to the salt shed at all. It's a discrete program that describes food security projects, which this was described as. As Amy is aware, I am diligently looking for grant opportunities for the concerns that were raised. The salt shed, an issue with some bridges came up. The town is not in a position to pursue those grants because they have not put funds aside in the past to match the needed funds. That is a separate issue from any issues that might arise for this grant. All of the opportunities I have sought have either been a low match threshold, no match threshold, or have been able to be met by in-kind contributions. So there have been a number of issues raised here, which, although valid in their presentation, if you dig down a little deeper, they don't really obtain. If you would like to invalidate the bid based on that you received based on process, that's fine. Amy and I had a talk last Thursday. Certainly that was a misunderstanding on correct procedure. When I submitted the bid, she told me herself, well, through Marie, that she preferred that that be sent via the Board of Selectmen. I said, fine. If she had wanted me to do it in a different process at that time, I would have been happy to have amended it at that time as well. As Amy is also aware, I do have an appointment to walk the property for another construction estimate later this week. Amy was invited to that, although I don't know if she was planning on attending. And that is going to be also accompanied by a member of the building committee. I think that covers everything in the short term. Oh no, I'm sorry, it doesn't quite cover everything in the short term. There was also a hang up about getting the playground equipment installed that was raised 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, based on potential liability. I would point out that all of our playgrounds are unstaffed and that the liability is the same for the town no matter where we put them because we have insurance. By the standard of liability for an unmanned playground, you'd have to take them all up. The grant awards that we received for that under the prior administration, it was certainly understood that those were playground equipment pieces that were going in. No objection was raised. We received the money and have purchased the equipment, and it is just waiting to be installed. Rich has previously told me he would do that at the end of his construction season, which is imminent, I imagine. I have not circled back with him yet because of the contention surrounding these issues, but I expect to be able to do so soon. I think that's everything. I'm certainly happy to answer any other questions that may arise.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Thank you, Tara.
I just have one question for Tara. How much is in the EDC budget for that project?
EDC had $8,000 that was approved by the Board of Selectmen. There is an additional $1,000 that was donated by Bank Hometown last year, and an additional $1,000 in private donations. So it is a total of $10,000 that we have in the pool to repair the foundation.
Any other thoughts, comments?
So we're looking to spend $10,000 of town
In the EDC, from the EDC.
to repair the foundation. And the grant funding that you anticipate to get is coming from where? What grants?
From whatever grants I go out to seek. I don't currently have an open grant application against this project. I had some that were open. The most recent one was not funded, but that was not a construction grant. That was a planning grant.
My feeling is that until we actually get a viable grant option, it's not wise to start spending the money. Because then it falls on the taxpayers to continue the project.
No, that logic does not follow.
Not to you, not to you, Tara, but to me. It does fit. And I think if you brought it to the voters, they would feel the same way. We're going to end the discussion now unless the selectmen have anything else to say.
The only thing with this is, I think that with whatever funding that is applicable, there's a way of stabilizing that even temporarily with a few lolly columns of beam, so it doesn't continue to deteriorate until we put a permanent plan in place.
Well, I think the biggest thing, once we have that full scope of the cost of the project by a qualified contractor, we'll be able to revisit and make a better decision.
But as you said, this may not be a Board of Selectmen decision. It may be
It might be Board of Finance.
Well, I know, I was thinking if the townspeople feel that this is not a project that they want to invest their taxpayer dollar in, then it's out of our hands. As far as I'm concerned, we are just here to do what not a couple of individuals, but the townspeople, the taxpayers.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All right, we'll move on to agenda item 10. Okay, so I was approached by Todd Mountford. I think he's the president of the board at the West Thompson Fire Department. Their board has decided to take out financing on, I believe it was a Alexis tanker truck. Alexia, let me see, I've got it right here.
I think you're right.
The Alexis tanker truck. So the finance company that they're working with is requiring us to fill out and send a section 147F approval and written agreement. It is based on the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. This was something I was not familiar with, so I did send it over to our attorney because it was certainly, in my opinion, it wasn't the board's decision to allow the fire department to get into financing. That was up to their board. However, Ken Slater, our attorney, looked it over and he said he doesn't see a problem with us signing or having me sign this. It's basically just acknowledging that we agree with West Thompson for entering into this agreement or into this financing agreement, and that the West Thompson Fire Department will continue to serve our community as one of our fire and rescue crews. The only other caveat that Ken Slater did state was that enclosed is the section 147, was that he wanted me to send a cover letter with the written agreement, and the cover letter would state that enclosed is section 147F, approval letter at your request, and this is being sent to that lease company. Note that the town approves of the volunteer fire department's decision to enter into the agreement, but does not actually have legal authority to act on behalf of the department. So I'm more than happy to draft that letter. I have it drafted already. So I guess what I'm looking for is the board's approval for me to actually sign this agreement. So, and I think Todd Mountford might be in the meeting. He wasn't sure he'd be able to dial in. Bryce, do you see a Todd Mountford in there or in the audience? What were you going to say, Suzanne? Okay.
Did you say that the purpose of this letter, the reason they requested it was because the finance company
It's the finance company requesting it.
requesting it?
Yeah,
So basically, it's a procedure. It holds us no obligation. in the
correct.
Financial
It's very
process.
clear.
And it does
Yeah.
say that in here that this approval does not in any way constitute a financial involvement or obligation of the municipality. So,
So do you need a motion or just a
yeah,
consensus?
I would need a motion to give me permission to sign the agreement, authorization to sign the agreement for the town.
Okay, so were you going to make the motion? You
Go
want me
ahead.
to- Yeah, I'll make the motion that we agree that Amy should sign this letter for the West Thompson Fire Department to be able to pursue the financing for their vehicle.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we've added the two items to other business, and the first one was from the Conservation Commission. The letter came from Carolyn, actually Philip Thomas, who is the chair of the Conservation Committee. What the commission is requesting is that the town hand over or donate 7 parcels in the west, let's see, in the Bull Hill Preserve area. They'd like to see it turned over to the Wyndham Land Trust. Currently, these are conservation pieces, and it would just continue to be a conservation piece under the title or under the ownership of Wyndham Land Trust. I believe this is an issue, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, that we'll just have to refer to planning and zoning.
But ultimately, it has to go to planning and zoning.
And then town meeting possibly as well?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're just looking for approval from this board to pass this along to planning and zoning.
Well, just in comment, right now, while I'm not against it and by any means, I would like to be able to do and look at these parcels,
okay.
to do some research on when we got them, where we got them, of that nature, because we just got it the other day.
Okay.
At least take a look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, what Wyndham Land Trust is doing up in that area is phenomenal.
Mhm.
As you know, the town itself has 80 odd acres, which is part of the soccer field up there as well. So I'd like to look at it and, in all likelihood, we probably, will agree with the conservation and do it, but, at least we have a chance to take a look at where these properties, where they came from. One of them is the 21 acres that was a woodlot, and look at all of these various things to make sure that we understand what we're agreeing to.
What
So-
we're giving.
Sounds like a field trip in our future.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I had the same feeling that I kind of didn't feel comfortable making that decision because we did just get this the other day and I'm not familiar with these pieces of property. And I was going to ask you if you had any information on them, but
I'm familiar with one piece, and that's the 21 acres. That's a woodlot. I mean, the location of it. The rest of them are various parcels looking at this, but there's additional information just on the parcel maps and different things, and we can get some of this info from even through the town clerk if we need to, when we acquired them and what the circumstances.
Yep.
A lot of them may have been just from taxes or donation,
right.
so, which is not a problem.
Sounds like
And
a great plan.
This does not look to me as if it's time sensitive either. So we can take a little bit of time and look
Absolutely.
at each piece or look at each,
Yeah, I agree. Wyndham Land Trust, like I said, does a wonderful job preserving and conserving all of this land. So since we're donating it, they're not spending, if that's the way we go, we donate the land to them because it may be landlocked. It makes the most sense. It's not time sensitive. I agree.
let's
And
do our homework and
let's do our
figure out
homework.
if, yeah.
Yes.
It was an in-depth discussion. I was at the last conservation meeting that they held at the town hall in person, and there was an in-depth discussion in regard to it. So yeah, I can totally appreciate you wanting to investigate it further. It makes sense to me. So, and yes, it is not time sensitive because, well, it's not, but then it also has to go to town meeting. So,
They're accepting
and that might not be happening in a little while, so.
And they're always willing to accept land.
Right. All right, so we will move forward. So the second item was a letter or an email I received from Joyce Hoy. She lives at 7 Center Street in Thompson. What she says to me in the email is, I would like to know if lots 116-19-5, 116-19-6, and 116-19-7 are all and all the lots are 0.0 acres. So an eighth, 8/10 of an acre. Is that right? It's very small. On Woodland Ave. So there's a whole section of town properties that are pieced. They're just tiny, tiny lots. And from what I understand, those lots were used for like people could buy them to store like fishing equipment for the pond or
Actually, that was all lots that were for like campsites.
campsites. Right.
And the town probably has,
30?
no,
No, not 30. There's
probably up
quite a
towards
few.
100 of them,
Oh, 100
Really?
of them.
all up through that area.
Right.
And where is that area?
It's Schoolhouse Ponds.
Schoolhouse,
Okay,
okay.
one of the things that we also have to look at up there, with that land that's up there, the town has a whole bunch, but some of those are what we call paper streets
Mhm,
that
yep.
never were developed. So you may be looking at legalities with that, even though somebody may approach the board to say, let's buy it. We got to look at, is there access to it?
Right.
Things of that nature.
I would assume there's access. I did talk to our assessor in regard to the parcels. The reason the Hoys would like this is they'd like to be able to park their boat on it.
Oh,
So So assuming there's access for them to at least get the boat there. They had initially talked to me and said, oh, they wanted 2. And they took measurements and said, well, we probably would need 3. So, and I believe in this case too, it's just a matter of moving or advising or turning it over to planning and zoning to decide if it's something they would like to dispose of. So,
Well, it opens up a lot of different possibilities in that area. Probably should take a hard look at it. If you go on the parcel map and look at that area, you'll see the variety of lots that run up through there. And if it's made known that the town is a possibility of disposing of some land, if somebody were to approach us, that could change some of the dynamics of, whether it's 1 or 2 lots, or maybe say 15 and make it one big lot. So there's a lot of possibilities, not against it one way or the other, but there's a lot of factors here.
right.
So a little more investigation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Board agrees to
And
that?
I'm not familiar with this at all.
I mean,
so, yeah.
it may
know
be
we own it.
possible, to grant somebody permission to use the property, in the short term. That's a woodlot. I mean, that's something,
I would say they're not in
I'm just saying,
desperation, right.
it's always a
Right.
possibility. That would be a town attorney question.
Okay,
And that might be a good idea while it's under investigation, if they need a place to store their boat, to grant them,
Mm,
you don't think so?
I don't know.
Don't know?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I'm always thinking liability.
okay.
Well,
Yeah,
there's-
well,
there's-
yes.
Well, but
Yes.
that's why you consult with the town attorney.
Right,
And
that's
if,
why.
if you do
We
something.
could certainly look into it.
You, the liability, if you're giving them a temporary easement or whatever, that, it's written that they assume liability. So there's things that we could look at here.
Sure. Okay, I'm willing to do that. All right, that concludes other business. Do either of the selectmen have any other business they want to bring up at this point?
I do not.
No,
Okay, I'm going to turn the speaker back on for citizen comments. Citizen comments.
I don't know if anybody raised their hands.
Citizens' comments.
You got Brian Santos. He needs to be unmuted. There you go.
Yeah, am I on?
Go ahead, Brian.
I think Renee was ahead of me. She wrote in the message box. So
Yeah, but Brian, go ahead. I'll go after you.
okay, Renee, thank you. Brian Santos here, Hagstrom Road, member of the EDC Building Committee and Planning and Zoning. My comment is specifically for the discussions around the 65 Main project. As a member of EDC, I'm a little confused on the budget comments that I will look into a little further on the side in that specific meeting. But I'm more concerned about the opinion of the volunteers, the private donations, that those people are looking for something to happen in town on 65 Main and go forward with specifically the foundation support system. And it seems like that could be in jeopardy. And I know that there was it wasn't a definitive no by what I'm hearing, but this was specifically for the foundation repair to keep that building standing. And I also know that there's various groups of people that are working very hard in the background, specifically on new zoning regulations and just trying to attract outsiders into this area. But if we're not supporting, but only challenging the projects that we're trying to do internally, that concerns me. Because if we can't do projects in-house, how are we possibly thinking that we can get outsiders to support us as well? I also know winter is coming and foundation support work will get even more challenging and costly as time goes by here. So I just wanted to make those few additional comments and I will leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Additional
Wal-
questions, comments? Okay.
Renee Waldron, 79 Main Street. Just some follow-up concerns. And I understand wanting to look at the whole project, look at our infrastructure. And I think Rich and I and you and a few other people had some heated discussions about that during a department head meeting. And I think we all thought it was a great idea to pull together and prioritize what we want to get done and how we're going to get it done. But if we keep doing what we've always been doing, we're going to get what we always got. This is the first time in I don't know how many years that there's excitement from all sections of town on a project. You've had commissions and committees working towards branding for 3 years, including 65 Main Street. We're about economic development, or are we? You know, I'd love to see a company come in and take over the Route 12 property potentially, and maybe create 300 jobs. That's not going to happen. We have to build with what we've got. And I'm going to leave that there on 65 Main Street because I think it's all been said already. But I do have a question. And no, it's not a question. It's a comment because it was talked about process and taking it to the people. I heard very little, saw very little on the sale of 395 Riverside. And I know there was support within our trails and historical society and other groups of people who are very interested in preserving the use of some of that property. And my understanding is that there would have been a way to explore that with the owners of 1405, is it? Making everybody happy. The person who's bidding 1405 and also continuing to develop a recreational opportunity on that site. I think the quick sale, did that go to the public? That didn't go to a town meeting. I don't think I had a say in that. I don't think many people did have a say in that. Planning and zoning allowed the process. From my understanding, it wasn't that they weighed in on whether it was a good idea or not. So I have concerns when one thing has to go before the people, but other things don't. And I'll leave it like that.
Additional citizen comments?
John Rice. Are we there, Amy?
We can hear you.
Okay, John Rice, 39 East Thompson. Just on Renee's last comment, if I recall, the planning and zoning authorizes the selectmen to dispose of property over the value of $1,000, and that's pretty much all we did. And it goes into the Board of Selectmen. It's their decision of how they handle it. That's all our responsibility is. And on 65 Main, a couple of things I just wanted to mention is that it was mentioned that the building committee was involved with that. We are not involved. I think there's a person that's on the building committee that's also on EDC that may have some input, but he will be speaking either on EDC's behalf or on his personal evaluation of that foundation, but not representing the building committee as Tara, whether she meant it or not, but she says a person on a building committee, because it hasn't been brought up to us at all on that building committee. And back to the Teague building, when that was disbanded, we did go to the town with that, and the town authorized us to build that new Teague building, but they specifically said that no town funds could be used to construct that building. It's solely on grants. And that's what Kevin Kennedy did. And townspeople backed that project, and that's how that was built. There was the town says, go ahead and build it, but don't use town funds, all grant money. My comments, thank you.
Thank you, John. Still open for citizen comments. Okay, I think Tira? Tira, did you want to speak? Bryce, can
Yeah, I was on mute, Amy, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to tack on to the end of what John said there. Yes, I want to clarify. I did not mean to imply that the building committee was directly involved. I was merely pointing out that a member of the building committee is joining me on Thursday for that walkthrough. Just to let you know that there is additional support, but that was not to imply that the building committee has been a partner.
Okay, thank you. Citizens' comments. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will move forward with agenda item 13. Tax refunds. I'll make a motion that we refund the following taxpayers: Richard J. Jr. Asal and Deborah A. Piper, $3.37. Gail F. and Sharon L. Bushy, $6.59. CCAP Auto Lease Ltd., $153.98. David J. Duquette, $12.12. David R. Fournier, $35.01. Hyundai Leasing Titling Trust, $212.98. James A. Rakowski, $25.92. David A. Spooner, $4.17, for a total tax refunds of $454.14. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. I'll say Ken seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor of approving these tax refunds, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:29 PM.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, meeting's adjourned.